Weapon kits! Love them or hate them, they're an understated yet integral part of the Splatoon series. It's really unfortunate when a weapon gets saddled with a bad or boring kit on launch and then gets a second bad or boring kit in an update, or if the weapon is particularly unlucky, both at the same time. If you're a fan of these weapons, you might be frustrated with the whole situation. I mean, why can't the devs just give these weapons better kits? Heck, why can't the devs give weapons a third chance just by slapping a new coat of paint onto one and giving it a new kit? They did that in Splatoon 2, why can't they do that in Splatoon 3? Well, hold your crab tanks, because it's not quite that easy. Once a weapon has a kit, it's stuck with that forever. While it might not seem like an issue, sometimes it can end up being a major problem down the line if, for example, the kit is absurdly busted. It's impossible to buff or nerf one specific kit without touching at least a few others, so the devs do need to be careful with how they approach things. We can easily see the struggle of picking good kits in Splatoon 2's development. Because weapons were released weekly in the earlier days of Splatoon 2, the kits of most weapons existed in the files of the game before they were officially made available, because they can't just update the game every week to add a single weapon. The downside to this is that data miners are able to see the kits of every single weapon in the files before they are officially launched, and a lot of the time, Nintendo actually changed these kits before they were available. Additionally, the global testfire version of the game has a mountain of beta kits too, with every weapon having at least 2 kits, some having even 4. The testfire kits are by far the most interesting out of the bunch, as there were a lot of kits that were completely changed in the release version of the game. So, in this video, I'm going to be going over every single beta kit in the testfire and early versions of the final game, but before we dive in, I need to make a few disclaimers. Firstly, I'll be using icons and names for actual third kits that are in the game when discussing some of the third kits in the testfire. It's worth noting that these icons and names were most likely only chosen after the game launched and did not exist during the testfire era. I don't have the actual names of these weapons outside of their internal ones, so I'm just going to fill in some of them by using the icons and names of third kits that exist in the final game. Second, while the kits themselves are sourced from actual data mines of the game, I will be speculating a lot about the thought process and origin of these kits. Since I do not have the ability to read the minds of the developers, it's likely that some of this stuff will be wrong. So if I don't back something up with direct evidence, take it with a grain of salt. Third, these are simply the kits that these weapons had at the release of specific versions. It's entirely possible that they could have changed multiple times between the release of 2 different versions, so some of those kits would just be lost to time. Lastly, keep in mind that these are, in fact, beta kits. While some of them may be funny or interesting with the knowledge of the game's final state, some of these weapons may have gone through multiple iterations where different kits made more sense due to differing stats. You'll often see that weapons undergo less kit changes the closer they are to release. Plus, some of them could be experimental and not intended to be final kits in any capacity, whether they are placeholder kits or just kits done for testing purposes. With that out of the way, let's go exploring in the data mines to see all the bizarre Splatoon 2 beta kits. We'll be going class by class, starting with shooters. Starting out with the Sloshematic, we can see that the testfire kits and release kits are the exact same, which is somewhat of a rarity here. I suppose I could take this time to explain what those extra words at the bottom of the kit mean. Version corresponds to what version of the game this iteration of the kit first appears in, and release is the version of the game in which the final iteration of this kit was released during. The PFS is simply just a points per special, but you probably already knew that. The only notable thing here is that Neosplash had its PFS buffed from 180 to 170 between the testfire and the final game, because missiles are just terrible, aren't they? The vanilla Splattershot Jr. underwent no kit changes between the testfire and final game, having Splat Bomb and armor throughout it all. The custom Splattershot Jr., on the other hand, was set to have point sensor and Tenta missiles during the testfire. Gotta be honest, that is terrifying. It was changed to its final kit by release. During the testfire, the vanilla Splash-O-Matic originally had Suction Bomb instead of Toxic Mist. Meanwhile, the Neo Splash-O-Matic had its final kit of Burst Bomb and Suction Bomb Launcher. While it initially retained this kit upon the game's release, in version 1.4 the devs decided to try something bold, something fresh, something never before seen, and gave it Suction Bomb and Auto Bomb Launcher. They reverted its sub back to Burst Bomb in version 2.0 and reverted its special back to Suction Bomb Launcher in 2.3. The Aerospray MG was set to have Auto Bomb and Curling Bomb Launcher during the testfire. The Aerospray RG, on the other hand, had Ink Mine and Inkstorm, which is quite similar to its Splatoon 1 kit. Both weapons would receive their final kits in the release version of Splatoon 2. Ooh, time for a fun one. The Splatter Shot was one of the few weapons available in all demos of the game, and there's tons of oddities with all of its kits. In the Treehouse demo and Testfire, the vanilla Splatter Shot had Burst Bomb and Tentamissiles. In the Splatfest World Premiere, this vanilla Splatter Shot was not present. The Tenatech Splatter Shot was instead available. That was likely done to give more variety to the kits present in that version, as the Dualies already had Tentamissiles. In the reveal trailer, you can also see a Splatter Shot using Ink Storm. Since the reveal trailer and the Treehouse demo happened at around the same time, it's likely this was just done for demonstration purposes. The only other beta kits that we can see for the Splatter Shot are the other ones in the Testfire. However, there's quite a few of them. That being said, most of them just have Suction Bomb and Tentamissiles, including the Tenatech Splatter Shot and the 3rd and 4th variants of the Splatter Shot, along with the Hero Shot replica. This, of course, would end up being the kit of the 3rd variant of the Splatter Shot in the final game, the Kensa Splatter Shot. Interestingly, the Octo Shot actually had a mirror of the vanilla Splatter Shots kit, being Burst Bomb and Tentamissiles instead of the Tenatech Splatter Shots kit. But there's one last oddity with the Splatter Shot in the Testfire. There's a weapon referred to as simply Shooter_Amiibo, and it has 2 variants. The second one has Suction Bomb and Tentamissiles again, but the first one actually has Burst Bomb and Burst Bomb Launcher, which is exactly the same as the vanilla Splatter Shot in Splatoon 1. This personally leads me to believe that this mysterious amiibo shooter is actually the Splatter Shot used by, well, the amiibos, specifically the Splatoon 1 amiibos. That being said, I don't know why they would give these 2 weapons kits though, so it's just a theory. Also, a side note about 3rd kits. At a certain point in Splatoon 2's life cycle, they decided to stop releasing weapons on a weekly basis and instead release 4 weapons on a monthly basis. At first, Nintendo still kept the beta kits in the files, but once they finished releasing the second kits of every single weapon, they decided to start covering their tracks, and so for the 3rd kits, there aren't any beta variants that we know of. Well, except for these weird Testfire kits, of course. So if you're wondering where the 3rd kits are, well, there's your answer. In the Testfire, the 52 Gal was set to have Splash Wall and Ink Storm, while the 52 Gal Deca was set to have Curling Bomb and Baller. With the 52 Gal being one of the more iconic Splash Wall weapons, I personally find it strange that they skipped out on it in Splatoon 2 originally until the Kensa 52 Gal came out and eventually tore the game apart, of course. But we can see here that they originally did plan on giving it Splash Wall and changed their minds later. That's honestly a shame because this kit is actually pretty inoffensive and would be much less of a nuisance compared to the horror that is the K-Gal. The 52 Gal Deca is also somewhat interesting, as it has a sub similar to the Seeker found in its Splatoon 1 kit, but with the Baller that eventually made its way into the vanilla Splatoon 2 kit. Also, while I'm on the topic of the 52 Deco, it's worth noting that despite the fact that it came out only 6 months after Splatoon 2 launch, it was actually the last Stingray kit ever to be added to the game. It's been speculated that this is because Nintendo realized that Stingray was a mistake and decided they wouldn't give it to any more weapon kits. During this time frame, some other weapons would have their Stingray swapped out for different specials, so I'll be sure to mention those as they come up. During the Testfire, the NZAP 85 had Autobomb and Inkjet, while the NZAP 89 had Splat Bomb and Ink Armor. It's interesting to see the secondary Zap kit had Armor, while the primary Zap kit has Autobomb. Both of these kits were changed to their final versions by the release of the final game, although NZAP 89 had a PFS nerf from 180 to 190 in version 1.3.0, which was before it released officially. The Splatter Shot Pro is one of the lucky few weapons with 4 kits in the Testfire. Its vanilla kit still had point sensors as sub, but its special was Baller instead. The Forge Splatter Shot Pro, on the other hand, still had its final kit of Suction Bomb and Bubble Blower. The 3rd and 4th kits were both the same though, being a mix of the other 2 kits, Point Sensor and Bubble Blower. The 96 Gal, similar to the Swoosh-O-Matic, had absolutely no changes to its kits between the Testfire and the final game. The only notable thing here is that the 96 Deco had its PFS nerf from 180 to 190 in version 2.2.0, a little over 2 weeks before it launched. Once again, the Jet Squelcher had no kit changes between the Testfire and launch, nor were they changed during updates. The vanilla L3 nozzle nose had Curling Bomb and Tentamissiles in the Testfire, with its special being replaced with Baller in the final game. The L3D, on the other hand, had Suction Bomb and Inkjet, with its sub being replaced with Burst Bomb in the final game. The H3 nozzle nose had a lot of interesting kit changes during development. The vanilla kit started with Point Sensor and Armor during the Testfire, while the H3D kit had Sprinkler and Ink Storm, which is one of the most underwhelming kits I've ever seen. The Ink Armor would be moved over to the H3D kit by the release of the game, with Tentamissiles replacing the armor on the vanilla kit. In version 1.4, the H3D would finally have its Sprinkler swapped out for Suction Bomb instead. Thank God. Okay, quick side tangent. In the 3.0 trailer, we see a Clash Blaster player fighting an H3 player, and the H3 player uses Burst Bomb and Splashdown. This kit was never seen in any public release of the game, and I have no idea how it got in here. Next up is the Squeezer. For the vanilla Squeezer had Splash Wall and Splashdown in the test fire, which is a strange kit. Given how similar it was to the 96 Deco, I think it makes sense for them to change the special by the release of the game, although they probably could have picked a better one than Stingray. The foil Squeezer had a completely unique kit in the test fire, being Burst Bomb and Inkstorm. Sure, I guess. Certainly more balanced than the final kit, which was present in the release of the game, which also underwent no further changes before its release. Let's move on to the blasters, starting with the Luna. During the test fire, the vanilla Luna Blaster had Ink Mine and Splat Bomb Launcher. This kit is eerily similar to the final kit given to the Luna Blaster Neo and appears to be a combination of its two Splatoon 1 kits. The Luna Blaster Neo, on the other hand, had Auto Bomb and Splashdown. Both of the kits were finalized on the launch of the game and underwent no further changes. The Blaster is one of the few weapons to feature 4 kits in the test fire, but like with the Splatter Shot, the 3rd and 4th variants feature the same kit, this time being a mirror of the vanilla kit's Sensor and Inkjet, while the Custom Blaster had Curling Bomb and Inkstorm. The Hero Kit actually mirrors the vanilla kit this time too, although, as we'll see in a bit, some of the Hero Kits are a bit more interesting than just being a mirror of an existing kit. The Range Blaster's vanilla kit had Splat Bomb and Baller in the test fire. Given the Crack-On Rollers kit in the final game, it's clear that Nintendo viewed Baller as a pseudo-replacement to Kraken, meaning this is actually a reference to the fan-favorite custom Range Blaster kit in Splatoon 1. Unfortunately, Nintendo realized that this kit would be too much fun, and gave it Suction Bomb and Inkstorm for the final game. The custom Range Blaster kit is also very interesting. It started out with Sprinkler and Stingray in the test fire. By the release of the final game, its Sprinkler was swapped for Curling Bomb instead, but in version 1.1.1, it was given Burst Bomb instead. In version 1.4.0, it was given its Curling Bomb back before having its special change to Bubble Blower in version 2.0. This could be a result of the Great Stingray Purge after the release of the 52 Gal Deco, but it was changed to this kit before the release of the 52 Gal Deco, so I'm not sure. For the Clash Blaster, let's start off with a Neo variant. In the test fire, it had Burst Bomb and Inkstorm. On the release of Splatoon 2, it would have Sprinkler and Tenta Missiles, but in version 1.4, it would get its sub changed to Burst Bomb. This version of the kit would be shown off in the version 3.0 trailer, but interestingly, the kit for this weapon was changed to have its final kit of Curling Bomb and Tenta Missiles well before this trailer came out. This could easily be old footage, or maybe they even changed its kit back to Burst Bomb and then back to Curling Bomb between updates. It also didn't even come out after version 3.0, which is kinda funny. Anyways, the vanilla Clash Blaster was available on the release of Splatoon 2, meaning the only beta kit we have for it is from the test fire. I wonder what it could be. Oh. Huh. This very well might be one of the worst kits in Splatoon history, if I'm being honest. Not much to go over here for the Rapid Blaster. The vanilla variant had Suction Bomb and Burst Bomb Rush during the test fire, while the Rapid Blaster Deco had Ink Mine and Inkjet. Both kits were finalized on the release of the final game. The Rapid Blaster Pro had Toxic Mist and Stingray in the test fire, but it got its final kit by the release of Splatoon 2. The Deco kit pretty much always had Ink Armor, but Nintendo seemed to have trouble settling on a sub-weapon. They started with Beacon, then Burst Bomb, then Curling Bomb, before finally settling on Splash Wall. Well, we're done with all the shooters now, right? Wrong! The test fire actually includes kits for the Dual Squelcher. Not the Dualies Squelchers, the Dual Squelcher. For those unaware, the Dual Squelcher is a weapon in Splatoon 1 that's kinda similar to Nova Shot today, where it was a mid-range shooter with a decent fire rate. Despite the Dualies Squelchers existing in the game during the test fire, the Dual Squelcher was still in there. Perhaps they had a different plan for these weapons in development. Well, regardless, the vanilla kit features Splat Bomb and Inkstorm. I wonder where I've seen that before. And its custom kit features Splash Wall and Splashdown. Unfortunately, while traces of Dual Squelcher do exist in the final game, there are no kits to be found. Onward to Rollers, starting out with the Carbon Roller. The Carbon Roller has had an interesting weapon kit history. In the test fire, the vanilla variant started out with Toxic Mist and Inkjet, and the Deco variant started out with Burst Bomb and Inkstorm. But the Carbon Roller does have third and fourth kits. The third one is Curling Bomb and Splashdown, and the fourth one is Beacon and Baller. Huh, I wonder where I'd seen those kits before. The Carbon Roller also had a small adventure during the update cycle of the full game. Anyone who has played Carbon Roller will tell you that Burst Bomb is downright essential for this weapon, but the vanilla kit in Splatoon 2 didn't have it. This was rather upsetting for Carbon players at the time, especially since the Datamine Carbon Deco kit was just Sprinkler and Inkjet. It seemed like Nintendo wasn't going to give the Carbon Roller the Burst Bomb it needed for the longest time, until right before its release they had a change of heart, giving it Burst Bomb at the cost of being cursed with Auto Bomb Launcher. The Splat Roller has had an interesting history. Firstly, it was available in the Treehouse demo where it had Curling Bomb and Splashdown, but when the test fire came out, it was given Suction Bomb instead, which is a sub it had in Splatoon 1. In the Splatfest World Premiere, it was given its Curling Bomb back. While it may seem like Nintendo was intending to give it Suction Bomb for a bit, I personally think that they only did that to add more variety to the sub-weapons in the test fire, as the Splat Dualies already had Curling Bomb. I say this because not only do we see Curling Bomb on the suspiciously familiar Carbon Roller kits, but also because the Hero Roller had Curling Bomb and Splashdown during the test fire as well. This is just speculation, but I think the evidence here is very strong. Now, for the alternate kits, the Grasslands Roller has always had Beacon and Baller. The third and fourth kits are interesting though. The third kit had Slap Bomb and Ink Storm, while the fourth kit had Beacon and Ink Armor. The Vanilla Dynamo Roller had Ink Mine and Stingray in the test fire, which is the same kit it has in the final game. The Gold Dynamo had Auto Bomb and Ink Armor though. When the final game came out, the Gold Dynamo had Toxic Mist instead, but this was changed to its final sub of Splat Bomb in version 1.4.
Hey, it's me, I didn't care. I didn't notice that there were two more kits in the test fire. The third kit had Auto Bomb and Stingray, and the fourth kit had Splash Wall and Splat Bomb Launcher.
In the test fire, the Flingza Roller had Suction Bomb and Baller, while the Foil Flingza Roller had Splash Wall and Tennis Missiles. Both of the kits were finalized on the release of the game, with Splash Wall and Splat Bomb Launcher for the vanilla kit and Suction Bomb Tennis Missiles for the foil kit. The Vanilla Ink Brush saw no changes between the test fire and the final game, having Splat Bomb and Splashdown the whole way through. The Ink Brush Nouveau had Sprinkler and Tennis Missiles in the test fire, however. This was finalized to Ink Mine and Baller when the final game was released. In the test fire, the Vanilla Octobrush had Beacon and Baller. Given by how Nintendo saw Baller as a pseudo-replacement for Kraken, this is clearly a reference kit to the Vanilla Octobrush in Splatoon 1, which is cool. What's also interesting is that the Hero Brush actually has Beacon and Ink Armor instead of the vanilla kit. The Octobrush Nouveau, on the other hand, had Ink Mine and Inkjet during the test fire. All kits were finalized by the release of the final game. Now for the Chargers. The Classic Swiffer had, Sprinkler and Splashdown during the test fire. That is definitely the kit of all time. The new Swiffer had Ink Mine and Ink Armor though. Neither kit underwent any more revisions after the full game launched. The Splat Charger was the third weapon to be available in all demos of the game, and is the only one to undergo absolutely no changes throughout all demos. It always had Splat Bomb and Stingray. We can see some oddities if we look at the test fire kits though. Firstly, the Firefin Splat Charger had Ink Storm rather than the Suction Bomb launcher seen in the final game. Second, this is another weapon with 4 kits, along with a hero variant, although all the other kits are the same as the vanilla one, being Splat Bomb and Stingray. The Splatter Scope also had 4 kits though, and the third and fourth ones are actually completely different to the first two, being Beacon and Missiles and Auto Bomb and Splashdown instead. The E-Liter is yet another weapon to feature 4 kits in the test fire, with both the scoped and unscoped variants getting this treatment, although unlike the Splat Charger, the kits between the scoped and unscoped variants are identical. Firstly, the custom E-Liter kit is Beacon and Bubble Blower, just like the final game, and there were no changes to the kit after launch. The vanilla E-Liter and E-Liter scope had Auto Bomb and Baller, the third kits had Splat Bomb and Inkjet, and the fourth kits had Sprinkler and Suction Bomb Launcher. These are certainly an interesting set of kits, I'll say that. The only unused beta kit for the Bambooster was the Mark 1 in the test fire, which had the slight difference of having Splat Bomb instead of Curling Bomb. The Mark 2 kit was the same as the final version during the test fire, and neither kit had any changes after the release of the full game, aside from a PFS buff to the Mark 2 variant in version 1.3.0. Now for everyone's favorite meme weapon, the GooTuber. The custom GooTuber had Curling Bomb and Inkjet from the test fire up to its release, but the vanilla kit had the interesting combo of Inkmine and Splat Bomb launcher during the test fire. I mean, it's not really possible to give GooTuber a good kit, but I suppose that I'm just kind of underwhelmed with that one. Certainly better than the final kit it got, though. Alright, it's time for Sloshers. While the vanilla Slosher had Suction Bomb and Antenna Missiles in the test fire, being identical to its first kit, the Slosher Deco had Curling Bomb instead of Sprinkler in its test fire kit. The Baller was the same though. The Hero Slosher appears to have its own completely unique kit though, with Splat Bomb and Inkjet. This kit is, objectively speaking, awesome. Similar to the normal Slosher, the Tri-Slosher's vanilla kit underwent no changes between the test fire and the final game, while the Nouveau kit is a bit more interesting. It started out with Toxic Mist and Auto Bomb Rush in the test fire, having its sub-replaced with Splat Bomb in the release of the final game. The special was also changed to Inkstorm in version 1.4.0, with this being the kit it was released with. In the test fire, the vanilla Sloshing Machine had Auto Bomb and Splat Bomb Launcher, while the Sloshing Machine Neo had Point Sensor and Stingray. These kits would have their specials swapped in the final release of the game. Well, this one's going to be a doozy. Remember how I said that newer weapons tended to have their kits changed more often? Well, the last 4 new main weapons to be added to Splatoon 2 were not present in the test fire or the release build of the game, thus likely being actively worked on only after the game's launch. Thus, these were weapons have a lot of different kits that they went through during development. Also notable is the fact that these weapons were released during the era where Nintendo stopped putting unreleased kits in the files. While we do still have unreleased kits from these weapons before that era started, some of them had their kits removed from the files temporarily before being re-added upon their final release. So, some of their kits may just be lost to time. Anyways, starting out in version 1.2, the vanilla Blob had Toxic Mist and Stingray, which quite easily wins the award for the most annoying kit in the entire Splatoon series. I'm very glad we did not have to deal with this. In version 2.0, the Blob Deco's kit was added, although at this time it was just the same as the vanilla Bloblobber's kit. Both kits will be updated in version 2.3, with the vanilla Bloblobber receiving Splash Wall and Inkjet, and the Bloblobber Deco receiving Inkmine and Stingray. In version 3.2.0, both kits will be updated again, with vanilla Bloblobber getting Splash Wall and Inkstorm, and the Bloblobber Deco getting Fizzy Bomb and Suction Bomb Launcher. The vanilla Bloblobber would release shortly after these new kits were chosen. Interestingly, this is the only instance of the new subs and specials added during the 4.0 era being on a first or second kit, even among all the beta kits we know about. The fun wouldn't last forever though, as the Bloblobber Deco's final kit of Sprinkler and Suction Bomb Launcher will be chosen before its release. Xplosher is the second of the 4 final main weapons to be added to Splatoon 2. Its first kits appeared in version 3.0. The vanilla Xplosher had Point Sensor and Baller, while the custom Xplosher had Squid Beacon and Tenta Missiles. Interestingly, these iterations of the Xplosher were actually middleweights, not heavyweights, although all later kits would be heavyweight. In version 3.1, the vanilla Xplosher was given Sprinkler and Bubble Blower, releasing shortly after, while the custom Xplosher was given Auto Bomb and Baller. The custom Xplosher would be given its point sensor back upon its release in 4.3, being the same kit that the original vanilla Xplosher had. Next up are the Splatlings. The mini Splatling only had one minor kit update between the test fire and the final game, with the Zinc mini Splatling having Suction Bomb instead of Curling Bomb in the test fire. It would get its Curling Bomb on the release version of the game, and neither kit was updated further afterwards. The vanilla Heavy Splatling had Splash Wall and Stingray during the test fire, and the Heavy Splatling Deco had Beacon and Bubble Blower. The Hero Splatling Replica would have its own kit of Sprinkler and Splashdown. All kits were changed to their final iterations on the release of the game. In the test fire, the vanilla Hydra Splatling had Auto Bomb and Ink Armor, while the custom Hydra Splatling had Sprinkler and Splashdown. In the release version of the game, the custom Hydra Splatling would have its sub changed to Ink Mine, and in version 1.4 the kits would have their special swap, with the vanilla Hydra getting Splashdown and the custom Hydra getting Ink Armor. The third of the final weapons of Splatoon 2, the Ballpoint Splatling, has a very interesting kit history. The first Ballpoint kit to be seen was the vanilla kit in 1.2. This iteration of the weapon had Beacon and Tentamissiles. I know Ballpoint meta and Missile meta never overlapped, but if they did, this would probably be one of the most dominant kits ever seen in the Splatoon series. At least this version of the weapon was a heavyweight instead of a middleweight, like all later kits we'll see coming up. In version 2.0, the Nouveau version was added to the game for the first time, with it starting out with Point Sensor and Baller. In the same version, the vanilla kit was updated to have Suction Bomb and Tentamissiles. Version 2.3 would have another overhaul to these kits, with the vanilla variant getting its final kit of Toxic Mist and Inkjet, and the Nouveau variant getting Splat Bomb and Tentamissiles instead. In version 3.0, the Nouveau variant would be changed once again to Beacon and Splashdown instead, although upon the weapon's release in version 4.3, it would have its final kit of Beacon and Inkstorm. The Nautilus is the last of the 4 final weapons to be added to Splatoon 2. Both variants were added in version 2.0, with the 47 kit having Ink Mine and Inkstorm, and the 79 kit having Curling Bomb and Inkjet. Version 2.3 has switched things up a bunch, with the 47 kit getting Curling Bomb and Ink Armor, and the 79 kit getting Point Sensor and Splashdown. In 3.0, the 79 kit would be changed to be identical to the 47 kit, but in 3.2 they would both be changed, with the 47 kit getting its final iteration of Point Sensor and Baller, and the 79 kit getting Splat Bomb and Ink Armor. The final version of the Nautilus 79 kit will be seen on its release in version 4.3, being Suction Bomb and Inkjet. Getting closer to the end now, we have our first Dualie type weapon, the Dapple Dualies. In the test fire, both kits had Splat Bomb and Stingray. This might seem like an out of place kit, and that's because it is. Every Dualie and Brella except the Splat Dualies and Splat Brella had Splat Bomb and Stingray on all of their kits during the test fire, presumably as a placeholder for their actual kits later, since all of these weapons were probably very unfinished in this version. So for the sake of time, I won't be discussing all of those test fire kits. Anyways, both Vanilla and Nouveau Dapple Dualie kits had their final iterations chosen on the launch of the game. The Splat Dualies are the last of the 4 weapons available in all demos of the game. In the Treehouse demo, it had Suction Bomb and Inkjet. However, in the original Splatoon 2 trailer, we can see a player with the Splat Dualies use Tentamissiles and Splashdown. This was likely for demonstration purposes, as in the clip where the map is shown off, the Dualies user is shown to have its actual kit this time instead. It's still very interesting to see nonetheless, just like the splatter shot with Inkstorm we saw earlier. Moving on to the test fire now, the vanilla kit had its Suction Bomb replaced with Curling Bomb, and was playable in the demo. Of course, there's still the ones hidden in the files, of which we have 4 more to look at. The Imperius had Curling Bomb and Splashdown, looking a lot like the modern kit seen in Splatoon 3, while the 3rd variant had Sprinkler and Splashdown, and the 4th variant had Curling Bomb and Inkstorm. The Hero Dualies also sports its own kit of Suction Bomb and Inkjet. Maybe they just hadn't gotten around to updating it yet after the Treehouse demo. In the Splatfest World Premiere, the Splat Dualies would be available to play with their final kit of Burst Bomb and Tentamissiles, while the old kit would be absorbed by the Emperi Dualies in the final game. The Gluga Dualies had some interesting iterations throughout development. In version 1.0, the vanilla Gluga Dualies had Ink Mine and Stingray, while the Gluga Dualies Deco had Splash Wall and Inkjet. In version 1.1.1, however, the Inkjet was given to the vanilla Gluga Dualies and the Gluga Decos were given Baller instead. These would be the final kits for both of these weapons. The vanilla Dualie Squelchers were released rather early in Splatoon 2's lifecycle, being the second new main weapon ever added to the game, so their kit didn't undergo any major changes except for a PFS nerf right before its release. The custom Dualie Squelchers are a bit more interesting. They started out with Splat Bomb and Ink Armor, which is a kit that goes hard. In version 1.4, they decided to swap out the Ink Armor with Stingray, which is an interesting choice to say the least. This version of the kit can actually be seen in the version 3.0 trailer, funnily enough. However, in the actual 3.0 update, its Stingray was swapped out for Inkstorm, being potentially another victim of the Great Stingray Purge after the release of the 52 Gal Deco. Finally, the Tetra Dualies, and this one is going to sting a bit. In version 1.0, the Dark Tetra Dualies had Suction Bomb and Baller, which is a huge step up from both kits seen in the final game. However, Nintendo clearly thought this kit would be too much fun, so they changed it out for its final kit in version 1.1.1. The light Tetra Dualies didn't go through much iteration though, starting out with a Sprinkler and Splat Bomb launcher. It would get its Auto Bomb launcher in version 3.2 just before its release, along with a moderate PFS nerf for some reason. Last but certainly not least, we have the Brellas. The Splat Brawler would have its final kit of Sprinkler and Inkstorm in the test fire, with it not being changed on the release of the final game. It did get a PFS buff shortly before its release, however. The Sorella Brella had Toxic Mist and Baller during the test fire, with the Baller being replaced with Splat Bomb Launcher in the release version of the game, and the Toxic Mist being replaced with Auto Bomb in version 1.4. The Hero Brella Replica also had its own kit during the test fire, being Splat Bomb and Tenta Missiles. In version 1.0 of Splatoon 2, the vanilla Tenta Brella had Splash Wall and Ink Armor, while the Tenta Sorella Brella had Squid Beacon and Bubble Blower. In version 1.1.1, they had their kits swapped, presumably because the devs wanted to release more Bubble Blower weapons early on. I asked a high-level Tenta Brella player what they thought of the Sorella kit, and they responded with this. Ass! Yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. In version 1.1.1, the Tenta Sorella Brella would have its armor taken away for Curling Bomb Launcher instead. I don't know if this is an upgrade. And finally, the Undercover Brella. Unfortunately, there are absolutely no beta kits for this weapon, although the vanilla variant did get a PFS buff from 170 to 160 in version 1.3. Well, that's it. That is all of the beta kits that we know of. It's entirely possible that I missed a few beta kits in the trailers for the game though, but I think this is good enough for now. It's very unfortunate that Splatoon 3 is looking like it will not be getting any third kits for any weapon, especially since the number of kits in Splatoon 3 is barely higher than in Splatoon 2, despite Splatoon 3 having far more main weapons. However, kit selection is not a straightforward process, and it's hard to choose balanced kits with such a small pool of testers compared to the size of the whole Splatoon community. Some kits can flat out ruin the game, and it might not be clearly obvious why until you take a closer look. Looking at you, Pencil. I can see why the developers would want to stay away from adding anything stupid like that, for now at least. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching through the whole video. This was my first time doing essay-style content, so I really appreciate you for sticking through the whole thing. I also want to give a huge shout out to Ash Binary for helping me with far too much stuff for me to list here. You can find their Twitter linked in the description. I also want to thank my friends for helping me make sure that this video turned out okay. You know who you are. I also want to shout out Yaga's kit generator as well. You can find a link to it in the description. I hope to do more essay-styled stuff in the future, but that's going to take a while. College started back up for me, and I don't have as much time to edit as I would like. Well, thanks again for watching, and have a good one.